Well, here we are, at the end of the road for the Indian FTR 1200 line. It was and remains unique, a heritage machine styled as a flat-track racing motorcycle in a world of retro-looking roadsters, scramblers, cruisers, and naked bikes. At the time I bought my FTR, I never imagined this model changing. I always saw it this way, with this very Indian design, with this color scheme, a race replica of the Built for Racing 750. Both the 750 and the FTR take us to the time Indian motorcycles were successful in a once more popular American racing series. In retrospect, it makes sense that its production line ended. It's a niche motorcycle with a very narrow path for model updates and evolution in a brand that has become associated with cruisers, tourists, and baggers. Whatever Indian tried to do to keep sales going for this motorcycle did not work. So here we are. No more FTRs are being built. There was no official announcement from Polaris or Indian Motorcycles about the end of this production line. It happened sort of quietly in last year's Q4 earnings presentation when Polaris announced the end of production for this motorcycle, which is appropriate for something that had slowly become irrelevant. Welcome back everyone. In this video I'm going to tell you why I like this motorcycle here and why I'm going to keep it for as long as I can, but despite that, I'm also going to tell you why I agree with the Polaris decision to end its production. So let's start with what I like about this motorcycle. I like this motorcycle for several reasons. I will list them in some order of importance, from very frivolous to more serious. I always like to give context to any story I tell. So to begin this conversation, you should know that to me, I don't view motorcycles as a transportation. Motorcycles to me are all about the riding experience. They are about delivering fun, each in their own way. As of today, I can afford having more than one motorcycle in my shed, and here is an important clue about my view of the FTR. The day it will no longer be possible for me to have more than 2 or 3 motorcycles, I will likely sell the FTR. This explains this motorcycle in a nutshell. More on this as the story unfolds. One of the most frivolous reasons why I bought this motorcycle is that I wanted to have an American motorcycle. I've had Japanese, German, Italian, English, and Austrian motorcycles. I don't have any brand loyalty. Well, I'm a little bit biased towards Ducatis and Hondas. Having said that, the FTR is my favorite American motorcycle among all choices of American motorcycles available now and in the recent past. I've been attending the One Motor Show for years. I always liked the style of the flat-track racers that were displayed there. It's a look that works well for an urban motorcycle, better than a naked or scrambler, in my opinion. And this 750 Indian was sweet. So when Indian announced they would build a street version of the 750 racer, I counted the days to when I could see the final product. Talking about the One Motor Show, 2 friends of mine had Indian motorcycles. Looking good, Carl.
Riding this stupid thing would be terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying.
My friend Doug took his 1921 Indian to the 2019 One Motor Show at the launch of the FTR. Check these photos. How great they look together, 98 years apart from each other. He also took it to the 2020 show, where it was again featured alongside other Indian motorcycles. This old motorcycle, 104 years old as of today, it helps build the idea of Indian as a brand of importance in general and in particular to me. As an American tradition, flat-track racing has played Indian against Harley, a rivalry that wrote a big chapter on the history of motorcycles in the United States. This chapter has not closed yet. And here we have, 100 years later, this beautiful race replica of Indian's successful past. I like having it and riding it for that reason as well. On top of all of that, I met the designer of the FTR when he worked for BMW and was behind the beautiful BMW R9T design. This also helped me create a connection with this motorcycle. But none of these reasons would have worked if the test ride I took on the FTR had failed. It all came full circle when I took an FTR for a test ride in 2019, starting with the riding position. You sit on top of the motorcycle. And then, my friends, at my first real twist of the throttle with this very acceleration here. Yes, this test ride sold the motorcycle to me. Besides what you get when you accelerate it, the sounds. Its exhaust note is how I think motorcycles should sound. In my opinion, this V-twin is for motorcycles what V8 motors are for cars. It reflects an American experience, the muscle car era. And well, it includes the downsides of this tradition, like not being a great machine for canyon rides. Although the thrills are there, even when going slow. Riding this motorcycle is about something else. It's not about performing on mountain roads. Wait, but there is more. Its accessory line included racing number plates, which in my opinion makes it look extra good, and it allowed me to get the number 68, which connects me to my first motorcycle and my first enduro race with it. When I was randomly assigned the number 68, now it is my number 68. All these reasons still apply. I consider it a special motorcycle for special occasions. However, if Indian ever decides to bring a new version of the FTR to the market, I hope it will be well, let's talk about the reasons for its demise first, then I'll tell you about my hopes and dreams about this line of motorcycles. In my opinion, there are two main reasons why Polaris decided to shut down this line. The first one is the obvious one. It's the official line that Polaris and Indian used, which is low sales volume. It's obvious, and I'll discuss with you why the FTR did not sell well. Then there are identity issues. It was hinted by Polaris as they explained the end of production. I interpreted it as meaning the identity of the product itself as a flat track racing replica, and from Polaris' perspective it seems they were thinking more of the identity of the brand today, this bike not belonging to Indian's brand strategy today. So let's talk about sales volume first. The first thing we should all remember, and this applies to almost everything, is that heritage products do not sell very well. To be worth the investment, it has to work as a marketing strategy for the brand. Look at the new Beetle or the Chrysler PT Cruiser or Chevrolet HHR, and in the motorcycle world, remember the Ducati Sport Classic? And although more successful, BMW sells a lot less R90s than they sell GSs, and I would bet their line of R18s is barely surviving. And when economic downturns happen, motorcycle sales in general are products that are impacted more strongly than other products, and within motorcycles, the ones that are more expensive while being less practical are the first ones to be impacted. This is obvious. With the FTR, there are some added issues. Besides being a heritage model, it has some serious performance challenges. It starts with a very small 3.4 gallon tank, but that is not the main issue. It is compact, but it is heavy. It has slow turn-in speeds because of its long chassis and having that 19-inch front wheel. And tires, that, let's be honest, are there only for looks. Very few people took it racing. It's a beautiful luxury item. It is motorcycle jewelry in the specs of the launch, like my motorcycle here. Ultimately, what it has, and here is what counts for the people who love V-twins, is that this format, a V-twin packed in this compact frame, it is what makes this motorcycle interesting. Despite the performance compromises, it offers something unique. It has no filters between you, the motor, and the road. It's ultimately a beautiful and fun for leisure rides motorcycle. Nothing more, but nothing less. Obviously, it does not work for everyone. It seems to like this motorcycle and to own one applies to only a very few of us. I confess I did not know I was sort of alone about enjoying it. I was in the FTR bubble, so to speak, ignorant about it not being popular. I was legitimately surprised and disappointed by the performance of the two videos I made about this motorcycle. They each have less than 500 views. I made one video for each of my motorcycles. The Ducati is the one with the most views, followed closely by the CX500, and then there is a good gap to the Tigers video, another gap to the CB500X, down to the WR250R, and another gap to the KTM 790R. The FTR's video is barely showing on this graph, way down on the list with less than 400 views. It is disappointing because I consider it one of my best videos. I did put a good effort into making it. I even dressed up for the event. I purposefully took it to the desert for a photo shoot and all. I loved every minute of photographing it, videoing it, and riding it in the desert to make the video. But the viewers did not come. You could say, well, your videos suck, man. And I would have to say, I agree, but that would apply equally to all my videos. And look at the Multistrada video. I get about 50 hits a day on this video. The bottom line is that this motorcycle does not attract many viewers, the same way it did not attract buyers. So now let's talk about model identity as one of the reasons for the slow sales. Like I mentioned before, heritage models don't sell well, even when they represent one of the most sold vehicles in the world. If they are going to sell anything, heritage models, besides having something to hang on to in the history of the brand, they need to deliver some type of performance or a side of practical use. And if they are to be produced at a loss, it would need to be part of a marketing strategy, like a halo product, or be part of a campaign to improve the brand image. Indian had its tradition on flat track racing, but that was a thin path and with interruptions, and the Indian has been preoccupied with different bikes for a long time now. If that's not enough, calling it the flat track racing replica put it on a narrow path for product development. And to top it off, flat track racing is not a very popular series, especially outside the United States. In keeping with the chapter on competition with Harley-Davidson, it seems bagger races seem to be attracting more people these days, and these larger motorcycles bring a larger profit margin. Back to the FTR. Early on the short 5-year span of production of the FTR, I did notice Indian trying to find sales for this motorcycle. I already bought my 2019 model with a factory discount halfway through 2020, when it should still be selling well as a new product. On the following year, Indian tried offering variations on the theme to improve sales, like a more adventure or dirt model, and it did not work. So Indian went the other way, going for a street performance upgrade, eventually pushing aside the original 19-inch front wheel, updating it with 17-inch wheels, and tuned the frame for faster turning speeds to improve road performance, ultimately making it something else, more of a roadster, less of an FTR. The 1200cc motor and obvious intent to keep up with BMW, in my opinion, did not work well with the FTR idea. Although I love how the motor sounds, how it delivers power, the bike turned out to be fat, long, heavy, and the changes made to improve street performance, turning it into a roadster, killed it in my opinion, distanced it from the original design, as flawed as it may have been. Although I liked the Roland Sands version that in the last year of production brought it back to the race replica color scheme, there was no longer a reason to call these bikes an FTR. The name lost meaning, the motorcycle had an identity crisis, in my opinion. Because of these crazy but maybe needed changes in the FTR line, I already knew my first year FTR, especially it being the race replica, had become a historical piece of machinery even before Polaris announced the end of the line last year. So that was about the product identity. Now let's talk about brand identity. The other issue leading to its demise, in my opinion, was Indian's lack of investment on the product, which has to do with brand identity. What was the role of the FTR in Indian's lineup? It could not even serve as a halo product because nothing in Indian's lineup would benefit from the FTR line. When we look at BMW, for example, their heritage line has the uniqueness of the air-cooled boxer motor and a lot of models to draw inspiration from. Example is the major facelift that just happened on the R9T, now R1290. Yes, they even changed the name but still maintained the tradition of the model. Then look at Ducati's different strategy. Contrary to BMW and actually more similar to Indian, they had only a few years and a couple of models from which to draw inspiration for their Scrambler line. Still, Ducati created a complete new brand from that very thin historical line. I bet it's not selling very well, but it being an entry-level model in motorcycles lineup, it is a strategy to bring new and younger riders to the Ducati brand. It serves a purpose. Indian had basically one model to pull inspiration from. The recent movement to revive its glorious past on flat-track races drew the interest of the public on a consumer version of the 750 racer. I think Indian and its marketing campaign with the Super Hooligan series was brilliant. The motorcycle itself is gorgeous. But the FTR was born with some critical flaws when thinking about a long-term strategy. Or the strategy changed along the way. Without an ecology of products to sustain economies of scale, the FTR is not only unique among all motorcycles available in the market, but it's also unique on India's current lineup. Somehow it appears it wasn't, or today it is not a direction India wanted to invest on. So what are my hopes and dreams? I do think riders are today looking for motorcycles that are smaller, under 500 pounds of weight, with like an 800-900cc motor, with about 80 to 100 horsepower, even smaller than that in the adventure world. It is a sweet formula for street riding performance and affordability. Polaris and Indian, that's my advice to you. If you want to build a truer flat track racer machine, but which will also sell well to people in the market for a roadster, a scrambler, or a naked, something with more of a performance orientation and more affordable, make it smaller next time, but keep it a V2 motor, of course. Having said all of that, I'm happy with my FTR. I have a motorcycle for more spirited riding and other motorcycles for dirt riding or touring. So I can keep the FTR for the days when I simply want to ride a motorcycle, a legitimate motorcycle, one that offers a great sitting position, that vibrates the way motorcycles should vibrate, that sounds great, and with a motor that has great power and a great torque curve. I'll keep it for as long as I can afford it being my third or fourth bike, the bike for the purest joy of riding, the reasons that make riding an adventure. On top of that, it's that kind of motorcycle I can't walk away from without turning back for another last look. Thank you for watching this video.